Oh,
Thank you. We're on what is it? There's a Gada today, which might make it easier. On the bottom of Yom Base. So the Gemara, I think that the Gemara doesn't say how it comes in. The subject about when the world was created. We did have the mention before about the Mishnah said Rosh Hashanah l'shanim Tishrei Alpha Tishrei, and that the Gemara said one shot was the Kufa a couple of pages ago on Daf Ches. So the way we learned over there was the way to count the progression of the years. If it was, and it depends over there, the Gemara said according to Beleza, it says B'Tishrei Nivra Olam. So that's probably what it's going back on, even though it's a couple of pages later. We finished Mishnah, most of it, I guess, about the different Rosh Hashanim, and now it's going to have Arichas a little bit about when the world was created. And now it says it's a machlokis. When was the world created? Tanya, Beleza, Omer, B'Tishrei Nivra Olam, B'Tishrei Noldu Avos. There are other subjects also besides Brias Olam, and then don't dafka. They're not dafka related, not dafka interdependent. So what does he say? That the world was created in Tishrei, and Tishrei Noldu Avos, Tishrei Mesu Avos, the Avos, which is, we'll see right away that it doesn't mean Yitzchak, because as right away that says in the next line, the Pesach Nolad Yitzchak. So when it says Avos, it means Avram and Yaakov. So both of them were born in Tishrei. The Gemara is going to dash on that. And also, but Tishrei Mesu Avos, they died also. Probably also means Avram and Yaakov. But the Pesach Nolad Yitzchak, it doesn't say when he died, but we'll see that according to what the Gemara says, probably it means also that's when Yitzchak died also. And Rosh Hashanah, Nifkad Asar Rachel B'chana, they were reckoned. Reckoned means that the Gzar Din, Rashi is going to say later on that the Gzar Din, the decree that they're going to have children was on Rosh Hashanah. For Sarah, Rachel, and Chana, all of them were Akoros, they were barren, and the decree that they're going to have children was on Rosh Hashanah. The Gemara is going to say drasha for that also, but I don't really understand what's special about Sarah, Rachel, and Chana, because as we say in davening of Rosh Hashanah, mi lo nifkad kayom hazeh. Everybody's nifkad, the Gzar Din, and everybody is Rosh Hashanah. So why are they singled out that their Gzar Din of that they're going to have children was on Rosh Hashanah? You could say every woman, or even every barren woman, or any woman that is decreed upon she should conceive, is always on Rosh Hashanah. So I'm not sure if anybody could help with that. And the last line, Rosh Hashanah.
Ben Ish Chai, Ben Yoda. There's a lot there about that.
Okay. Thank you. If you could later give us a synopsis or whatever, what comes out of it. Rosh Hashanah Yotze Yosef Beis Asurin, that he was freed from the jail. That's the same day that he became king. That's when Pharaoh had a dream, and the Sarmashkim told about Yosef, and they brought Yosef out of the jail, and he became king on the same day. And that also happened on Rosh Hashanah, which is interesting. We don't talk about that too much. On Rosh Hashanah, we do mention about Sarah and Hannah. We don't talk about too much about the fact that Yosef was freed on that day also. Another thing about Rosh Hashanah, that wasn't the Gzar Din only, that was the actual Shechur. That's what it says, Yosef. And the next page, Rosh Hashanah Bat La'avodim Yavustenu b'Mitzrayim, that the Shibud stopped in Rosh Hashanah, even though they didn't go out till Nisan, but the Shibud stopped 6 months earlier. And B'Nisan Nigalu, that's the fresh pasuk. That's when the Gulas Mitzrayim was in Nisan. I mean, after you have to have the psukim says B'Chodesh HaRishon, but the Gemara a couple of pages ago took the difficulty to figure out how you know which month that is, and the Gemara figured it out that it means Nisan, and the Tishrei Asidan Ligal. The future Gula is going to be in Tishrei. So this is all Rabbi Eliezer. And Rabbi Shua is going to, some points are going to be agreed upon, but some are point of machlokis. Rabbi Shua Omer B'Nisan Nivra Olam, that's the main machlokis, when the creation of the world was. Rabbi Eliezer says in Tishrei, Rabbi Shua says in Nisan. Nisan Noldu Avos, Nisan Mesu Avos, also as far as the birth and the death of Avram and Yaakov, he says it was Nisan, not Tishrei. The Pesach no Yitzchak, this is agreed upon. Everybody agrees on these things. Everybody agrees. The Pesach no Yitzchak. Yitzchak was born in Pesach. Rosh Hashanah Nifkad Asar Rachel B'chana. He also agrees to that. He's not going to say everything was Nisan. He also agrees that on Rosh Hashanah was the time that the decree for the reckoning of Sarah, Rachel, and Chana was. Rosh Hashanah Yotzei Yosef Beis Asurim. Also he agrees. Rosh Hashanah Bat La'avodim Yavustenu b'Mitzrayim. Also he agrees. That's when the sheep would stop in Mitzrayim. B'Nisan Nigalu, of course, is the pasuk. And B'Nisan Asidim Nigal. And the future Gula is going to be on Nisan. So we have here 4 machlokes really about when the creation of the world was and when the Avos were born and died. And anything else? And when the Gulas, the born and died, that's you can count that as two if you want to. And last thing is about when they're going to redeem in the future. That seems to be the only 3 or 4 points of machlokas. The rest of them are agreed upon. Okay, now the Gemara is going to go into the first issue about Brias Olam. Machlokas when the world was created. And the Gemara is going to dash of Sukkah bin Bereshis. When did that happen? It means, of course, when it was created, it was the beginning of creation. But was it a season of Nisan or was it a season of Tishrei? From where can we prove that the world was created in Tishrei? It's talking about on the third day when there was when with the creation of the trees, the grass. So in the command, when Hashem says that it should happen, so Hashem said, the world, the earth should become full of grass, grass that reproduces, Eitz Peri. It continues after the Eitz Pri, but it says Eitz Pri. Eitz Pri, the Gemara understands, the Gemara say right away, Eitz Pri means that it already has peros, it's already laden with fruit. So if you have trees that are laden with fruit, that means that it's Tishrei. Now they changed the gear. So the gear said the Bach changed this word Motzia to Malaya, like it says in the next word. The Elon Mole Peros. What is the season that the earth is full of grass? Sharetz Malaya Desham, and the trees are full of fruit.
Rebbe, where's all the noise coming from? The only phone that's not muted is a Galaxy 10, but there's a lot of noise in the background. Is that coming from, or is that coming from the Galaxy that's not muted?
It could be that people are learning here, so it could be that there's a background. I'm not sure. It could be it's not from the. Could be that it's live from the other room. 1 second, please. 1 second.
Yeah, it seems like it's coming from the other room right there in the yeshiva.
1 second.
Sounds like Rabbi Weiss. I recognize the voice.
No, but there's somebody else. Okay.
Rabbi Weiss is somebody else?
Yeah, somebody else. Let's continue. If it's still so, maybe tell me again. So, what did the Gemara say over here? That if it was a season when the world was created, it was a season that the grass was already. The earth was covered with grass and the trees were laden with fruit. That sounds like Tishrei. We're changing this word. We're changing it to Malaya. And that's the point that's to jump ahead by the base of the Bach about 7 lines later, 3, 6. It says over there Malaya by the base, he's going to change this word to Motzia. He switches around these two words, which is Lachar Muchach in the Gemara, which is the month of the year that the earth is full of grass. The Ilan Mole Paris and the trees are full of pears have almost at Tishrei. That's the proof that when the world was created, it was the season of Tishrei, because it says that there was grass and there were fruit on the trees. Also, another point, also that's the season when it rains. The word Revia is the rain. The beginning of the rain is called the Revia Rishona. That's the term for rain. We'll have Maseches Tainis that word Revia is used a lot for meaning the rain. So, which is this rainy season? Is that season? And that's when everything it rained and things were growing. That's the pasuk says over there that a mist rose from the land and Vishkos Kopanei Adama. So those were Rabbi Elazar's two proofs. One was the fact that the earth was full of grass and the trees with fruit, and also that it's the raining season. Those are proofs that the world was created in Tishrei. Now Yeshua says that in Nisan, all creation. So how does he get that from the Pesukim? Rabbi Yeshua, Omer Menai Sheba Nisan Nivra Olam. How do I know that the world was created in Nisan? Shenema Vatotze Eretz Desha, Eisev Mazriya Zerav, Eitz Osepri. So here it says Vatotze Eretz Desha. Before it said, what was the words before? Just to go, it said Tache Eretz Desha, and here it said Totze Eretz Desha. In the same issue of the third day. So over there it talks about the command that Hashem said it should happen, and then that it happened. So in the pasuk where it says that it actually happened, it says Vatotzi Eretz Desha, and also it says Eitz Osa Pri. It doesn't say Eitz Pri, it says Eitz Osa Pri. So it doesn't say Tache Oretz, that Vatache Oretz Desha, it says Vatotzi Eretz Desha, and also by the fruit, it doesn't say Eitz Pri, it says Eitz Osa Pri. And from that he derives that it's the season that things start growing. In Tishrei, it's already full grown, and the grass is full on the ground, and also the trees are full of fruit. But in Nisan is the time that it starts blossoming the fruit and that it starts coming out grass. So that's going to be the Nisan season. So Rabbi Yeshua derives from this pasuk that it was the Nisan season. Ezel Chodesh Oretz, you have to change this word here. The Bach changes it again. That Malaya, not Malaya, but Motzia. He switches those two words around. Which is the month that the earth gives out grass, Sharetz Motzia the Sham, and also Ilan Motzi Paris, that it starts blossoming, the beginning of the process of the fruit. Of Omer and Nisan. So that's his first proof that it's Nisan, because that's when things are starting to grow. And also, another natural thing that he would say, that's the mating season. That's what the Gemara said before, that the mating season is in Adar and stretches out into Nisan. Also, here it seems to be talking about the question Rashi asks over here is that this is really Adar, the Gemara came out before, and here the Gemara is calling it Nisan. So Rashi says that one of the pshat Rashi says is that sometimes the solar year, it doesn't exactly overlap the lunar year. So even though it says that it was in the Iker is in Adar, it could be that it also overflowed and it's till the next month in the alignment of the months. But there's a difficulty over here a little bit that it says that it's Nisan before the Gemara came out that it's really Adar, the main issue. But and also the pasuk doesn't say anything in the pasuk about this being the mating season, that the Gemara doesn't bring any source to. But Rashi says that that's what was necessary. It means when the creation happened, so then the first thing in order was that they should continue procreating. So it must have been that was the mating season. Also, those are his proofs that it was in Nisan. So again, each one had two proofs. Rabbi Lezer said one point is because it's a time that the trees are full, the trees and the grass, everything is full already. That's Tishrei, and also that was the raining season. The pasuk says that it rained at that time. And this Rabbi Shua, on the other hand, also has 2 points. One is that the pasuk says that it should give out. It should be mostly Paris, and it should be it's Osapri and Vatoseo it's Desha. And also it's a mating season, which is more mustaber that happened in Nisan. Now the Gemara asks each man what is to do with the other psukim. Rabbi Lezer says that it was Tishrei and it was Eitz Pri, it was full of Paris. What does it do with the pasuk that says that it's Eitz Osa Pri, which sounds
Excuse me, Rebbe, are we through with the Brisa now?
Yes, right. And now the Gemara is going to analyze what does each one do with the other one's pasuk, like the Gemara always does when they have a right from a pasuk. What does each one do with the other one's pasuk? So, what does Rabbi Lezer do with the pasuk that says Eitz Osa Pri and the command? Like the pasuk is the difference between the command and when it actually happened. Hashem said it should be it should be Eitz Pri, and what happened was Eitz Osa Pri. Everybody knows the drasha that Rashi brings down that Hashem had said that it should be Tam Eitzo period Shova, and the trees didn't listen. That's the drash, but this is also a drash, I guess. But this is more closer to Pshat, where they're supposed to be Atzei Pri, where they're supposed to be fruit-laden trees as they were created already. They were laden with fruit, or they just were trees that are going to produce, but are only Osa Pri, but it was only Nisan time that it started producing. So the one's asking now, according to Rabbi Lezer, that says that it was already fully laden with fruit. Why does it say Eitz Osa Pri? The answer is that's saying that for all generations now that the trees are such kind of trees that they reproduce. Right now they were created laden with fruit. But Eitz Osa Pri means that these are trees that are going to continue giving fruit. So in this first time time of creation, it was already full of fruit. And it's Eitz Osa Pri, it's going to continue giving fruit for all generations. Ve'idach, Nami Yoksiv Eitz Pri. What does Rabbi Yeshua do? He's the one who says that it was a Nisan and it just started giving out the fruit. So why does it say Eitz Pri? The pasuk is mashma, it's already laden with fruit. How could Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, that's coming to say the drash of Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi meant Dam Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi called Ma'aser Bereishis become Masa Nivru, Ledata Nivru, Letzivyona Nivru. All of creation was made to their full height and to their. Rashi says Ledata means that they agreed to it. They were. You could say L'daita means maybe to their full intellect, but Rashi seems to say that it means to their consent. And the Sivyona Nivru, Rashi says that it means Here Rashi says it means Tzivyonon. 1 second, please. I forgot what Rashi says. Tosfos says it means beauty, and Rashi says that Tzivyonon means Tam Echad, Tam Kol Echad V'Echad, Tfus Kol Echad V'Echad. I guess their form. Each one was made according to their form. There's another pshat that some say that Tzivyonon means according to their consent, and the Datan might mean according to their intellect, full intellect. But anyway, the point is to say that things that were created fully maturely. Means again, Rabbi Shua says that it was not laden with fruit. It was a tree which it starts giving off fruit. So what does the pasuk mean that it's eighth free? So the Gemara is saying that it was a fully mature tree. Means when you came into Gan Eden on the first day of the creation of the trees, you didn't see little saplings that just started growing. You saw a full tree. It was a mature tree. Now, this tree, was it in the season of Nisan or was it the season of Tishrei? When you came into Gan Eden, did you see fully laden fruit on the first day, as if you'd see on Tishrei, or did you see the way trees look in Nisan that are starting to blossom? That's machlokas. But everybody holds that it was a fully mature tree, not that you had to wait a couple of years till, let's say, when you plant a fruit tree, it takes a couple of years until it starts giving fruit. So everyone's saying that it was a fully mature tree, but this fully mature tree, was it the season of Nisan or Tishrei? That's machlokas. So Rabbi Shmuel Levi says that everything was created fully mature. I heard different aspects of this full maturity. Just to give an example, that when you would go into Gan Eden, and when not Gan Eden Dafko, the whole creation will say, whenever there were trees in the beginning, you didn't just see if you cut down a tree, would it have rings? It would have rings like a fully mature tree. Each year it grows a new ring in the trunk of the tree. So you would see as many rings as a full-grown tree, not that it has one ring for the beginning. Also, let's say Adam Rishon was born. Did he have teeth? Yeah, he had teeth. Even though it was the first year, he was born like a full-grown 20-year-old man. It wasn't that he had, how does Rabbi Miller say, a 6-year molar. He has a 6-year molars already. What do you mean 6 year? How do you have a 6-year molar? Hashem made it already in full swing. The world was created in full swing. Also, they use this they explain this, that when it says people have the difficulty, there's a question that the light of the stars, for instance, it takes many light years that it should reach the planet Earth. So how could you say that the world is so young? How did the light of the stars get here? So it's a simple answer. Like it says over here, that the world was made in full swing. So when it was made in full swing, it means the light of the stars, no matter how far away it is, it was already in full swing. So that would be the point of the Komas and Ivru, the Daita Ivru, the Sivyon and Ivru.
You can understand also pre-chet and after chet. Pre-chet, the world was created pre-chet. So in other words, when he walked into the Garden of Eden, everything was there for him. It was liskot and fruit and.
Yes. Okay.
It was a fully laden with all the goodness of Olam Hazeh.
So that's what we're saying, that it was created in full maturity.
We would go with this idea of
yeah, but after the Chet, it didn't change. The creation didn't change after Chet. That was how it was created. That's how the world was created in full swing. That's what the Gemara is saying, that the world, even if it.
Look at Adam. He had a different kind of skin. He had a different kind of.
Okay, that's another point, but that doesn't affect the point of he was created in full maturity. That's the point. You're saying now that you're saying another point.
In full maturity in its creation.
Yes, you're saying another point, that the level of the quality of Adam dropped after Chet Adam. That's true. Yeah, that's true. But
was cursed because of him, including the
production rate. But that's not the point of the Gemara. The Gemara is talking about in creation. The Gemara is talking about it wasn't created in the Chodesh Nisan or Chodesh Tishrei. The Gemara says even if you hold that it was in the Nisan season and it was not yet laden with fruit, but it was a fully mature tree. Okay, and this drasha of Sivonam, the Gemara means Sivyonan, which is not a regular word. Rashi says. So if you shut them over here, Rashi says Sivyonan means b'tfus echad, b'tam echad. Tosfos says that it means beauty. I saw another pshat that maybe says that it means will, with their will. Whatever the pshat is, the Gemara brings the drasha to say the words from the word svam. This word Sivyonan, which the Gemara knows is not a regular word, the Gemara is saying that it's based on the drash that's going to be in the next line, Sivam. Shenema v'yichul ha'shemayim v'atzis v'chol Sivam. I'll take Sivam elot Sivyonam. But the Gemara doesn't feel that it has to tell you what the word Sivyonam means. We're supposed to know. But it happens to be in Machlokes Rishonim over here what the word Sivyonam means. Rashi says, "V'das kol echad v'yachad, v'tfus kol echad v'yachad, v'tam kol echad v'yachad, v'tfus kol echad v'yachad." Tosfos says beauty, and maybe there might be another pshat that the word Sivyon means ratzon. Okay, so we finished the first sugya about the creation of the world. I think there's going to be more coming up. maybe tomorrow. Svei, that's some sin based iron, different spelling. Okay, so the Gemara finished the first sugya about when the world was created. At this point, the Gemara says machlokes when creation was. There might be very many ramifications when the world was created, but so far the Gemara just brought the machlokes and the source of Bishman Diyama. The next issue about when the Avos were born and died. How do you know that the Avos, which we say means Avram and Yaakov, because Yitzchak we're going to say soon, everybody else was on Pesach. How do you know that Avram and Yaakov were born in Tishrei? Over there talks about, I think I didn't look into it now, but I think it's talking about by the Hanukkah's Beis HaMikdash. Everybody gathered to Shlomo Melech in Yerech HaYisanim b'Chag. The Chag is Sukkot. We know Chag is Sukkot means the month of Tishrei. And it calls it Yerech HaYisanim. It doesn't call it Chodesh Tishrei, it calls it Yerech HaYisanim. What is that? Why is Tishrei called Yerech HaYisanim? Yerech Shenoldav Yisanei Olam. That's the month that the strong ones of the world, And that the Gemara says, Pasha, that it means the Avos. So if the month of Tishrei is called Yerech HaYisanim, from there we could derive that it's the month of the Avos. What does it mean, the month of the Avos? That they were born. And it's not going to be Yitzchak, we'll see soon. So that means Avram and Yaakov. And how do you know that the word Esan means strong? How do you know that the word Esan means strong? Esan Moshe Vecha, that's by over there, Bilam, in Parshas Balak. So Esan Moshe Vecha means that your sitting is strong. The word Esan is strong. Some say also the word Nachal Esan, also the word Esan is strong. So that's one proof that Esa, that's the reason why we know that the word Esan means strong, and if it says the month of the strong ones, it must mean the Avos. But Omer, another pasuk to prove that the Esanim are the Avos, because it says Shimu Horim Meshuv Hashem Esanim Mos Yoretz, and it listened the mountains to the contention of Hashem is fighting. Hashem's coming with a real. Hashem has a complaint. Listen, mountains, to the complaint of Hashem, and listen the Esanim Mos Yoretz. So it seems that the Esanim are the same as the Horim. The mountains here are called also Esanim. So here the Gemara is not going to go about what the translation of the word Esan is, but since we know what Horim are, mountains are mashal for the Avos, the Gemara is going to bring a pasuk now to say that the mountains are mashal for the Avos, and it calls them also Esanim. That's a proof that the Esanim is referring to the Avos, and maybe when it says Yerech Esanim up there by Shlomo Melech, that means the month of the birth of Avram and Yaakov. How do you know that the mountains Horim, when it says the word Horim, it means the Avos? Because it says, the pasuk in Shir Hashirim depicts the beloved one that's jumping over the mountain, jumping on the mountains and jumping on the hilltops. So the drash is over there, that Hashem is going to hurry the gates because of the mountains. What are mountains? And the hilltops. Who's the hilltops? So in that Rash says that the Horim is referring to the Avos, and Mamela when it says in the same pasuk Horim and Esanim, so we see Esanim means the Avos, and Mamela the pasuk in Malachim that says about, is that Malachim or I guess it's Malachim, when it says in Malachim that the month of Tishrei is called Yerech HaYisanim, it means that's when the Avos were born. So that was Rabbi Elazar's drasha to say the Avos were born in Tishrei, because the pasuk in Malachim says the Yerech HaYisanim b'Chag. Chag we know is Tishrei and Yerech HaYisanim, and he knows the Yerech HaYisanim means the Avos. How does he know that? Either because it means strong, or because another pasuk talks about the Horim and the Esanim as being one and the same, and we know that the Horim means the Avos because the pasuk in Shir Hashirim of B'dalek al Horim. All that was to prove that the Avos were born in Tishrei, in Yerech HaYisanim. Rabbi Shua argues on this point, and he says that they were born in the month of Nisan. Rabbi Shua Omer Menayin Shevenisan al Avos Shenema Vahi B'Shmonim Shana B'Arba Mayo Shana L'Seis B'nei Yisrael Me'eretz Yisrael. We had this pasuk earlier in the beginning of the Masechta. B'Shana Haravias. You have to stick in the words B'Chodesh Ziv, Hu HaChodesh Hasheni. Over there it says, it happened to be over there, Iyar. It says at the beginning of the Beis HaMikdash, Shlomo started building the Beis HaMikdash 480 years after the exodus from Mitzrayim, and the 4th year of his kingdom, in the month of Ziv, which is the 2nd month. And he's going to say that Ziv means a shine. So again, these months, we later on it started being called Nisan, Iyar, Sivan, and Tishrei, But here, Tishrei is called Yerach Isanim, and Iyar is called Ziv. And why is it called Ziv? Why is the month of Iyar called Ziv? So he says, B'yerach Shenol Devozi Ziv Sanei Olam. So the same way, the same idea that we saw before, we said who are the strong ones? Esan, we said it's the Avos. Here he's saying who are the shiny ones? Who are the bright ones? The bright ones are the Avos. So if the month is called Yerach Ziv, it's because the Avos were born. It's a little bit difficult over here because here it's Iyar. It's Chodesh Ziv is the second month, it's not the first month. So it says in the pasuk over there, Hu Chodesh Hasheni. So Rashi says, maybe I misquoted Rashi, maybe I was getting mixed up. But Rashi over here said that the point about the lunar year and the solar year, Kishenes Chadash Iyar Noldu Kfar B'Nisan, either means when the Iyar came, they were already born, which is difficult. Or second shot, Rashi says that sometimes the solar Nisan comes into the lunar Iyar. It isn't quoted that before, Rashi, maybe I got mixed up before. But here Rashi says this answer. So that's the point, that's the difficulty. The Gemara is trying to prove that it's Nisan, and it brings the pasuk of Chodesh Ziv, which is really his second month. Okay, that's a little difficult. But Rashi talks about it. But anyway, he brings a proof from here that Avos were born in Nisan because it calls it Yerach Ziv, and Ziv means that shine. And who are the shiny ones? Those are the Avos. Now the Gemara asks on each one, what do you do with the other pasuk? Means there's one pasuk that calls Tishrei Yerach Eisanim, and the other one calls that Nisan Iyar is called Chodesh Ziv, Ziv Stani Olam. So when were the Avos born? Each one has to explain the other pasuk in a different way. Vaksiv Yerach Eisanim, Rabbi Yoshua, who says that they were born in Nisan Iyar. So how come the other pasuk calls it the month of the strong? Is it not the Avos? No, Hasam that Kifi b'mitzvah. So what it means that the month is strong of mitzvahs. It doesn't mean strong because of the Avos, because they were born. But it means that there are many mitzvahs. The whole month of Tishrei is full of mitzvahs. You have from Rosh Hashanah till after Sukkot, you have shofar and lulav, sukkah. Rashi brings down a whole list. Arava, Nisach Hamayim. There are many mitzvahs. It's full of mitzvahs. That's why it's called Yerach Eisanim. But really, the Avos were born in Nisan. The one who says that they were born in Tishrei, what does he do with the pasuk? It says Ziv. Isn't Ziv because they're shining one, the shiny ones who are the Avos? No. There's a shine for the trees. The trees are shining. Why is that? Because they start blossoming. Or some say Lahanos and Bnei Adam. That's the time you say bracha on the trees, because the trees are blossoming. It says when somebody goes out in the days of Nisan and he sees the trees blossoming, so he says the bracha, a once a year bracha, blessed is he, bracha to Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam, that he didn't make anything lack from his world, and he created in it good creations and beautiful trees that people should benefit from. So we have two psukim. One was Yerach Eisanim, and that's the drash, that's the source of the one who says that it's the Avos, but you could be mad for that and say that it means it's full of mitzvahs, the month is full of mitzvahs, strong in mitzvahs. On the other hand, some say that the Avos were born in Nisan because it's Yerach Ziv, around the time of Ziv, which is shining, they're the ones who shine, and also you can be mad for that by saying that maybe it's the shine of the trees, not the shine of the Avos. So that's a machlokis. It's not dependent on the machlokis about when the world was created, but it happens to be they're still consistent if it's Nisan or Tishrei, but it's not dependent on each other. Rabbi Elazar holds that the Avos were born in Tishrei, and Rabbi Yeshua says that the Avos were born in Nisan. The next Gemara goes, we're up to the, what is it, about the sixth wide line, fifth wide line. Now the Gemara goes about the next point, when did they die? And each one of the Yom holds that they died in the same month that they were born, and the Gemara is not going to bring a special rush of each one. It's just going to say that Hashem fills the years of tzaddikim, so whenever they were born, they also died. Whatever he hold, he was born. They were born. They also died. If they were born in Nisan, they died in Nisan. If they were born in Tishrei, they died in Tishrei. Shenemar. This is a pasuk by Moshe Rabbeinu. Famous drasha. Moshe said to Bnei Yisrael, I'm 120 years today. It could have said, I'm 120. It doesn't have to say Hayom. Today I'm 120. He meant to say, today is my birthday. That I completely, my days are full, that it's a full 120 years. That shows it's going to, not only Moshe Rabbeinu is going to bring a pasuk now, that all tzaddikim, Hashem calculates their years and their days that they should have full life. That's part of brachas, that it says, I'm going to fill the days of the number of your days. So everybody The avos are the biggest tzaddikim. So if it says Hashem makes tzaddikim to live the full year, so we could assume safely that the avos lived the full year. So whenever they were born, they also died. So if they were born in Nisan, they died in Nisan. If they were born in Tishrei, they died in Tishrei. Then also everybody agreed. They're going to further to the next point that was discussed, and everybody agrees the Pesach nolad Yitzchak. It's not a machlokes. Everybody agrees that Yitzchak was born in Pesach, and even though we said before about Nisan and Tishrei, but this is not in the machlokes. Everybody holds that Yitzchak was in Pesach, even according to Rabbi Eliezer. He's the one who said that the Tishrei no Avos, but he agrees that that's only over Avraham and Yaakov. But Yitzchak was born on Pesach. How do you know? Menolan, this week's parsha. That was the tidings that Sarah is going to have a son in the next Moed. So the Pashup Shad of the Pasuk, I think, is Lamoed means in the same in a year from now at the same time. I think it's a Pashup Shad. I didn't look into it yet, but I think that the Pashup Shad is next year, the same time. But the Gemara says not like that. The Gemara says it means the next Chag. Moed, like the Moed, it means the Chagim, so it means the next Chag. So by the next Chag, she's going to have a child. And the Gemara is going to try to find how could the next Chag already have a child? She wasn't pregnant yet. So how could it be that in the time that they were talking until the next Chag, as much as they stretched it around, even if it wasn't a Chag, even if they're holding by a Chag, to stretch out from Chag to Chag as much as it could, which Chag could it be that the tiding came from one Chag and the next Chag she already had a child? Amos Koi, when was it holding? Where the Malachim, when they said this, so when was it, at what Chag, that she can say that Sarah is going to give birth by the next Chag? That maybe they were holding by Pesach, and the tiding was that by the next Chag she's going to have a child. That's 50 days later. Can't have a child in 15 days. Could she give birth in 50 days? That can't be. What's the next choice? That it was Shavuos, and the tidings come for Sukkot. That they were holding by Shavuos, and the tidings was that the next Chag, Tishrei, Sukkot, she'll have a child. That's also, it's only 5 months from Shavuos until Sukkot. Because she gave birth in 5 months, impossible. It must be the furthest Chagim is going to be between Sukkot and Pesach. That's a 6 months. From Sukkot to Pesach, 6 months she could have a child. But it's also not true. They can't have a child in 6 months either. So the Gemara says another month, 7 months. Why? So it was a leap year. So therefore, it's, from Sukkot to Pesach was 7 months. So okay, 7 months. Still, 7 months is not enough. The Gemara is going to say that it could be a 7 month pregnancy. But first, the Gemara says that it's even less than 7 months. Rashi says the Gemara is based on the drash that everybody knows that Sarah, even though she Lushi Vasiu goes, but when they served it, they didn't serve the ugos. And Rashi says because she was pierced Nida, that even though that she had not, she had stopped menopause, she had stopped menstrual cycle, but it happened a miracle, and she again was pierced Nida. So she was tummy at the time that the Malachim came. So to get out of those days of Tumah, took also a couple of days that she would be Tameh, and then you have even less than 7 months. That it's possible to have a child in a 7, even less than 7 months. Means there's the Gemara goes that there's a child that's born a 9-month pregnancy and there's a child that's born a 7th-month pregnancy. I think that according to the Teva that we have now, you don't have such a thing. All children should be, I think, that the Pasha says that all children that are born, you don't have a full-born Vlad that's a 7-month pregnancy. But the Gemara considers it, yes, that the full pregnancy could either be as 9 months or 7 months. And there the Gemara says that a 9-month pregnancy cannot be Mukutan. It means it can't be less than Machlokes, if it could be less than a full 9 months. But the Gemara says even if you hold that Yeledes Latisha, 9-month pregnancy, if the baby is supposed to be a 9-month pregnancy, so then it can't be less than a full 9 months. But Yeledes Lashiva, Yeledes Mukutan. If it's a 7-month baby, if it's 7-month pregnancy, so then it could be chopped up. The word Mukutan means chopped up, means that it could be as long as it's into the 7th month is good enough, and it's possible to give birth even if it would not be a full 7 months. So that's what the Gemara does. It says that it was from Sukkot to Pesach, which is 6 months, plus a leap year, so it was 7 months. And even though they were Yemei Tumah to deduct, but it's still already in the 7th month, that's good enough. And she could have a child in 6 months and a couple of days, as long as it's into the 7th month. And it brings a proof from Shmuel. Over there it says Shmuel was born the Tkufos Hayomim. The Pashut means in a few cycles of days, whatever. the years, but the Gemara dashes that a tkufa is a season, and a season is 3 months because there are 4 seasons in the year. So each tkufa is 3 months, and tkufos is plural, so that means 2 seasons, which is 6 months, and yomim is days, also plural, so it means at least 2 days. Miyat tkufo shnayim, miyat yomim shnayim. The minimum of the word kufo, since it's a plural, so it means 2, so that would mean 6 months, and miyat yomim shnayim, also the word yomim is plural, so it also means the minimal is 2, so it means that it's possible that Shmuel was born after 6 months and 2 days. Even though it's not a full 7 months, it's possible to give birth in a chopped up 7th month, even though it's not a full 7 months. And that's what happens. So here too, the Gemara says by Yitzchak also, it must be that he was born in the 7th month. And the cheshbon to say la moed must be that the moed was Pesach. It has to be that the Besorah was on Sukkot and it was a leap year, and she gave birth to Yitzchak on Pesach. And everybody agrees to that.
Excuse me, are we saying that we take the 7 months and then what do we mute?
It just says that part of those days, she was not able to conceive because she was in her menstrual cycle.
So we say 2 days?
No, again. First, by Sorah does says that there was Chag to Chag. That's going to be Sukkot to Pesach. That's the maximum.
So okay, and it's a leap year, so it's going to be 7 months.
And then she was telling me some of those days, so it had to be less than 7 months, but that's okay because you can give a woman can give birth as long as it's in the 7th month, even if it was not yet a full 7 months. She can give birth even in Mekutan, even if it's a chopped off month, part of the month, a partial part of the month. The Gemara just bring a proof. When the Gemara jumps to the pasuk, that's bringing a proof from someplace else that this to the fact that it's true that it can, that a 7th month baby could be born even in the 7th month. It doesn't need a full 7 months pregnancy.
Doesn't need a full 7 months. So whatever number of days of Tuma taking away from the 7th month. So it's 6 months plus whatever weeks plus that is still in the 7th month.
Right, and the proof that it brings is because by Shmuel it says that Chana gave birth to Tkufos Hayomim, and the more is mentioning Tkufa means 2 seasons, and Yomim means minimal 2 days. So it's 2 seasons and 2 days, which would mean 6 months and 2 days. And that's the proof that it's possible to give birth into the 7th month. Probably 1 day is also enough, probably. It just means that you see that Mukutan is good enough. Once you're into the 7th month, it's good. And
do we have from a different place that the birth in the 7th month and the 9th month are viable, but in the 8th month it's considered misukan?
I think so. Yes, that nowadays is different. A baby born the 8th month could live because I think the reason why they could not live at those times is because the digestive system, I forgot which system is not yet developed yet, but now that they have the ways of
respiratory.
Thank you. The respiratory system is not developed, but now that they could artificially.
But in other words, the respiratory system in the 7th month was complete, but then it goes incomplete.
The Gemara has a mitzvah that we're not familiar with, that it's possible that there's a baby that's going to be born, a full-born baby, a full mature baby in 7 months, which I don't think we have nowadays. The post can talk about it. I think that we don't consider that there's a 7th month baby nowadays. They're all 9 months baby, and they might be premature. But the Gemara has that there's such a child that his whole pregnancy was in the 7th month. 7 months. He gets a full. It was
considered full term in 7 months.
Right, full term 7 month baby. So that I think we don't have nowadays. Okay.
Thank you.
As far as I know, the Sugya talks about it more. I think in Mestachas Nida, and I think that the post can talk about that. We don't have that nowadays. It seems to have been something that once was, but not now. But I don't know more about that. Okay. So that everybody agreed. Everybody agreed with Pesach Nolad Yitzchak. The Gemara continues to the next thing that it says in the Brisa. This also everybody agrees. Rosh Hashanah Nifkada Asar Rachel V'Chana. Everybody, these 3 women that were barren of they were reckoned, and Rashi says that it means that the Gzar Din, like you can't say that it means that they conceived, because we just said a second ago that Sarah conceived in Sukkot. That's when she got the news, and even that you had to take off a couple of days of Tumah when she gave birth to Yitzchak. So it doesn't mean that she conceived. Rashi says it just means Rosh Hashanah Nifkada Sarah Rachel V'Chana means that was when the Gzar Din was, the decree that she's going to become pregnant, and also Rachel, also Chana, regardless of when they gave birth. I had a question before. I'm just repeating it again. That we say in davening on Rosh Hashanah, Milo Nifkat Kayom Hazeh, who was not reckoned on this day. The Gzar Din for everybody's on that day. So what's the chiddush that Sarah, Rachel, and Chana? Everybody is Nifkad, but everybody's going to be during the year. So they're Nifkad on they're reckoned on Rosh Hashanah. So what's the chiddush of this of these three? So I'm not sure if anybody has. So before Rabbi Lugamsky mentioned that Ben Yehoyada talks about it. Okay. Menolan, how do you know that they were reckoned on Rosh Hashanah? There's going to be two Gzerah Shavas. For some of them, the Gemara is going to say that Rachel and Chana, one Gzerah Shava is enough. For Sarah, you can't come to that maskana only with a double Gzerah Shava. How do you do that? Kisiv, Berachel, it says by Yizkor Lakim as Rachel, and she became pregnant. And also by Chana, it says the same thing. Uchsiv B'Chana by Yizkor Hashem. Both of them are such a lesson of Zikaron. Hashem remembered them. And remembrance, we know that means on Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah. The Chsiv, Shabbos on Zichron Trua. Zichron is Zikaron. So that we call it Yom HaZikaron. That's how we call Rosh Hashanah. Yom HaZikaron is it. So that's not, you don't have to learn out Rachel from Chana. Both of them are individual Gzerah Shava. By Rachel it says Zikaron, and by Rosh Hashanah it says Zikaron. By Chana it says Zikaron, Rosh Hashanah it says Zikaron. But by Sarah it doesn't say Zikaron. By Sarah it says Pakad. Hashem Pakad Sarah. So that's not good yet. We don't have drasha for that. Now the Gemara is going to make another Gzerah Shava to learn out Sarah from Chana. Pekida, ksib b'chana kipokad Hashem as Chana, or ksib b'sara kip Hashem pokad as Sarah. So if once we know from the first drasha of Zikaron, we know that Chana was decreed upon to give birth. The decree happened on Rosh Hashanah. Now we can make Gzerah Shava that Hashem's Pekida to Sarah was also the same as the Pekida to Chana, which was Rosh Hashanah. So we can learn out also to Sarah. So everybody agrees. This has nothing to do with the Machlokes and Rav Lezer B'Yeshua. Everybody agrees that Rosh Hashanah Nifkada Sarah Rachel B'Chana. The next thing that the Gemara, that the Brisa said is about Yosef. And also everybody agreed. Rosh Hashanah Yosef Beis Asurim, that Yosef was freed from the jail on Rosh Hashanah. Not about the decree, but about the actual Shechur. Bottom line, Menolan Dechsib Tiku B'Chodesh Shofar B'Kesed Gam Chagenu Kichok Yisrael Hu Mishpot L'Lakei Yaakov, and it goes to the next pasuk Ganamid Beis. Eidos B'Yosef Samo B'Tzeis Aleres Mitzrayim. So the same pasukim that just before that spoke about Rosh Hashanah, like we know that the pasuk of Kichok Yisrael Hu Mishpot L'Lakei Yaakov means Rosh Hashanah. That the Gemara said earlier. B'Kesa Eiz Chodesh HaChodesh Miskasabo. We know that it means Tishrei, Rosh Hashanah, and the pasuk continues that a testimony to Yosef that Hashem makes somehow when he went out on Eretz Mitzrayim. That's when he went out, like it says, Vayetzei Al Kol Eretz Mitzrayim, that Yosef was taken out of the jail the same day he was brought to Paro, and he went and he was appointed to be the viceroy, and he went out on Eretz Mitzrayim. He went to tour, so to speak, or to see Mitzrayim, what he has to do in his job. So that happened on Rosh Hashanah. So the Gemara just finished that, the darshan that Yosef was freed, because pasuk says, right after it says, it's pasuk in Tehillim. Once it says, Kichok Yisrael Hu Mishpat L'Lakei Yaakov, it also talks about Yosef being freed. The next thing everybody agrees to is Rosh Hashanah Bat La'avodim Yavasenu B'Mitzrayim, even though the Gula itself was not until Nisan, but the Shibud was finished on Rosh Hashanah. How do you know that? Also from the continuation of the psukim over there. That in Tehillim, the one we just mentioned, that the work, the Shibud of Mitzrayim, the subjugation was called the Sevel, Sivelos Mitzrayim. That's like the work of Mitzrayim. And the pasuk over there until him after talks about Kichok Yisrael Hu Mishpat L'Lakei Yaakov, we know that B'Kesed Chagenu, we know that means Rosh Hashanah. It talks about Yosef. Then it also says even though the pasuk and the pasuk might be going on Yosef, like Rashi says, that Yosef is going to stop, got out of his shibud, but the Gemara is actually Gzerah Shava, that's also referring to Mitzrayim. So the shibud of Mitzrayim also stopped in Rosh Hashanah. The next thing is B'Nisan Nigalu, that the Gula from Mitzrayim was in Nisan. So that's Kedisa. That's the Pesha pasuk. That's not a question. As the pasuk says openly. Of course, we had to darshan a couple of days ago. How do you know that when it says the whole story of Mitzrayim, it says that it was Nisan? That thing more darshan because it says Chodesh Ha'aviv, or maybe there were other drushes over there to figure out that means Nisan. But that's already psukim everybody agrees to. And Machlokes is going to be now when the Gula Asida is going to be. When is the future redemption going to be? Rabbi Elazar said Tishrei. Rabbi Yeshua said Nisan. But Tishrei Asidanly go. That's Rabbi Elazar talking. Because Asher Shofar, Gzerah Shava, Ksiv Hacha Tikka B'Chodesh Shofar, and that's Rosh Hashanah, like it says, B'Kesed Lim Chagenu, the Chag Sha'Chodesh Miskasab was Rosh Hashanah, and that's the Shofar of Rosh Hashanah. Or Ksiv Hasam, V'Yamahu Yitaka B'Shofar Gadol. It says in the future, it talks about that Hashem is going to redeem Am Yisrael, so it says on that day, is going to be blown in a great Shofar. That Shofar Gadol was Gzerah Shava, Tikka B'Chodesh Shofar, also in Tishrei. it might even be Rosh Hashanah. That the Gemara doesn't say. It does. Rosh Hashanah is the shofar, but the Gemara just makes the Gzer Shav as far as Tishrei. According to Belazar, the Gula Sid is going to be on Tishrei, and Rabbi Shua says that the Gula Sid is going to be on Nisan. Rabbi Shua, where's he get that from? From Nolan. Amar Kru Lil Shimurim. It says by Pesach, the night of Pesach, the 15th, is called the night that is watched. What does watched mean? That it's being watched means that it's set aside, that should be the night of Geula. Just like it was in the times of Mitzrayim, it's going to be also in the future. It's set aside that that's the night of redemption. So it comes out not only Nisan, it comes out, we know the exact date, the Horror. It's interesting because the Gemara, both Rosh's, the Horror should have an exact date, either Rosh Hashanah or the first night of Pesach, the first day of Pesach, the night of Pesach. But the Gemara doesn't make it sound like that. It makes it sound like it's either Tishrei and Nisan, and disregarding the exact date that we learn out. But that's what it says. So Bishua says that I learn out Leil Shimurim, that it's the night which is going to be the Gula, just like it was in the days of Mitzrayim. It's also going to be in the future, the Idach. And what does Rabbi Lezer going to do with this pasuk? Laila Meshumur Bam and Amazik. And don't darshan that it means that it's set aside for Gula, but it means that it's watched from destroyers, damagers. If it means Mazikin of Malachim or Shadim, and it's a watched night that they should be protected. But it doesn't have anything to do with the Gula Asidah. We finished the whole brisa. We finished the brisa, and we had all these different machlokas in. They still might be coming up, and the next sugya is coming up more. And Tosfos talks about it. Maybe that's tomorrow's sugya. What is going to be about? When do we count the cycle of the world? When do we count the progression of a new year? Maybe what the Gemara said before, a couple of pages when it says that Al Petish is Rosh Hashanah Lashanim, it might be dependent when it says Latkufos. One Madam said that Latkufa. Rashi Tosfos over there seem to say, how do you count the years from Brias Olam, which we count now, Tavshin Pei Beis? Does it have to do with this machlokas of Chodesh Nisan Nivra Olam or Tishri Nivra Olam? So the Gemara might speak about that. So really, the Gemara should continue more. Vazdul Tamai means we're going to bring a different brisa now, where Belazar and Yeshua argue about something by the Mabul, and the Gemara is going to say that this is dependent on the machlokas of when the creation was it in Nisan and Tishrei? But if it's okay, even though it's there's still more time, but if it's okay if we stop today, I wasn't able to understand it yet. So if we could push off till tomorrow, this next sugya, which is really still part of our sugya, but I wasn't able to figure it out yet. So with your permission, I would like to start it tomorrow. And
isn't it midrash that the Malachim came on Pesach because for lots of the matzahs?
That it came on Pesach. So he's saying it's against our Gemara that says that they came on Sukkot.
Rebbe.
Right, you're right. L'chora, that's true.
Rebbe.
Yes, please.
Do I have permission to say something?
Yes, sure.
Okay, so the Ben Ish Chai has a whole halik in this sugya, but everything is first of all based upon Nigla. If you look in Tosfos here on Kav Zayin Amud Aleph, you'll see at the end of Tosfos Rabbeinu Tam on Kav Zayin Amud Aleph in Kama'an, Rabbeinu Tam brings the Elu ve'elu divrei Elohim Chaim, ve'ika lemeimar de betishrei ala b'makshava livroyos, below nivra ad Nisan. But to Gavasa Ashkachan b'perek oisin, pasin in Erevin, Yudches, gabe Adam sha'ala b'makshava livroyos shtayim, ulvasof nivra ela echad. Now, the Ben Ish Chai has a whole mahalik here that is based on the fact that Rabbi Eliezer is Rabbi Eliezer Hashemuti, a Talmud of Beis Shammai, and Rabbi Yoshua is a Talmud of Beis Hillel. So obviously we paskin in Nigla like Rabbi Yoshua. But according to this Mahalik, the first point that needs to be addressed is that the brisa that says Avos Nolad Ba Tishrei also has to be true. So for that you need the Chidah and the Shalah with the Zohar on the Akedah, because it says when Parcha Nishmaso Shel Yitzchak, when the Machelis was coming down, that Yitzchak only had a neshama the nukva. He could not have been moilid Am Yisrael. It was only because he died in the Akedah, which was on Rosh Hashanah, that he gained a neshama the Zachar that enabled him to moilid Am Yisrael, which means that Yitzchak was also born again in Tishrei. Okay, so that is the Pesach to the whole sugya. But the other basic nigla that, so I don't get too long, I'll just give you one more piece of nigla. There's a ritva on Daf Zion here that says, first of all, the Ben Ish Chai says that all these rayas in this sugya are not rayas. And they're not rayas for a reason, because all the psukim here are asmaktas, because you tried, as you said, they agree on certain things. It's clear in the Gemara. But what's interesting is that the one major thing they agree on is one nekuda, and that is the best nekuda for nigla in the whole sugya, which is what the Ritva says on Daf Zion. And that is, they agree on the fact that Nisan is the beginning of counting the Chadashim and the Moedim. Why? Because it's something that Hashem was geyser Limanos Chadashim and Moedim from Nisan, Zeicher Liyatzias Mitzrayim. So that's why it says Rosh Chodesh Lachem. It's for you, the people. It's something for us because of Zeicher Liyatzias Mitzrayim. But the nafkamina is that when we have an argument on Bria Sa'olam, you can also say Zeh v'zeh Elokim Divrei Elokim Chaim, but it's Makshav and Maisa. And when you take that over to Nister, and this is the last thing I'll say for now, by the way, the whole thing about Sarah, Hannah, and Rachel was an interesting Torah in Nister about Rachash, the Shem Rachash. But the one Nakuda that's Nogeh, I cannot answer your question about other women, but it does say that Rachash is a school for Zechira, and it's also a name that enables to be Megarish the Chitzonim, so it has to do with Pekida in that respect. But it also has to do with the fact that Yaakov got that name, and that Yosef goes out on Rosh Hashanah, and that we also had a Bittul Avoda, because the name also, as Gematria says, the Ben Ish Chai of Avodas Hashem. But the last Nakuda I was going to say from the Ritva is simply that this idea of Bria Sa'olam being a machlokes, so is developed by the Arizal and his Talmidim, the Gurei Ari, as Harayon and Leda. And note, if you're a chazan, that on Rosh Hashanah we say Hayom Hara Sa'olam. We don't say Leda Sa'olam, because that's nogea to the whole omek of what's going on here. I won't say more now because it could get longer and longer, but that's a Pesach to the sugya.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
View of the Sikum.
Sikum. Sikum, what do we have? We had this machlokus about when the world was created, and 1 second. And also when the Avos were born and died. And the machlok is about when the Gula Sid is going to be. Everything else is agreed upon that Yitzchak was born in Pesach, Kivda Fasana was in Rosh Hashanah, Yosef Hanan Beis Asurim in Rosh Hashanah, the Bittul Avoda was in Rosh Hashanah, and also that the Gula at the time of Mitzrayim was in Nisan. The rest of the issue is a machlokis. Machlokis, the Gemara being spoken for each one about when the world was created, either because the book of Liberation say Eitz Pri or Eitz Ozer Pri, or it also says about Tache Oretz or Tosei Oretz. Also the season of rain or the season of mating. That's the Gemara machlokas about when the world was created. As far as when the others were born, depends if you call it Yerech Eisanim or you call it Yerech Ziv. And the dichot one could be that maybe it's called Eisanim because of the mitzvahs, maybe it's called Ziv because the trees are shining. That was machlokas about when they born. Everybody holds whenever they were born they died because Hashem is Hashem makes full years for tzaddikim. And Pesach Yitzchak, the Gemara's right for that was because it says Lamoed, which the Gemara means the next Chag, and that the maximum, the minimum, whatever, has to be at least part of the 7th month. Between any two Chagim, you're not going to get so many days, only between Yitzchak, Sukkot and Pesach. If it's a leap year, you get 7 months, even though they were made Tumah, so it's possible to give birth in a Mekutan. You know, it's the Shiva, you know, it's the Mekutan. Because Zechira is Zechira. Also for Sarah you have to have Pekida to learn out from Hana, and Shana it says Zichron Shua. Rosh Hashanah Yosef, and also the next thing that it says about the kibbutz stuff is because the Psukim at Hillim where it talks about Tikku B'chol Shofar B'Kestiv Chagenu, which is Rosh Hashanah. It also says Yosef he somewhat B'Seis Olas Mitzrayim, and also about Hasibois Mitzvah Shechmo, which the Gemara is darshaning about the Shiva in Mitzrayim. And Asidin Ligol, the Gemara says either because Shofar shofar from shofar gadol to tikva b'chodesh shofar, or leil shimurim that it's shimurim for gula, and the other dichoy is going to be that it's minamazikin. And tomorrow's Gemara is going to talk about they're consistent with their opinion of when the creation was, based on the psukim that we're going to dash in there about the Mabul, which we'll see tomorrow. So in a couple of minutes, we'll continue with Tehillim. We're up to Tehillim today. Today's Yom Revi. Thank you.
Rebbe,
Yes.
about the Gula Asida, that could be reconciled that it could be Be'it Tabach